Hey, Shalom Israel, Brother Reggie Jr. here. So today, guys, we're going to be doing Deuteronomy Chapter 8. Just picking up where I left off from last time, guys, and we're going to go ahead and get right into it. Deuteronomy Chapter 8 in verse 1, and it says, "All the commandments which I command thee this day shall you observe to do it." And notice Moses keep on repeating that. "Ye shall observe to do, that ye may live and multiply, and go and possess the land which the Lord sware unto your fathers." And that's all connected to being obedient to the Lord. "And thou shalt remember all the way which the Lord thy God led thee these 40 years. And you know why it says remember? Because God is going to take these Israelites into a prosperous place. They're going to start prospering. Okay, and he don't ever want them to forget while they're prospering what the Lord took them from, lest they forget and abandon him and he have to punish them. So he said, remember the way which the Lord led thee these 40 years in the wilderness. But why did he lead them in that wilderness for that long? It says to humble thee and to prove thee, to know what was in thine heart, whether thou wouldest keep his commandments or no. And just like then, that applies to us now. We are in the wilderness of these nations, okay? And the Lord is allowing this Babylonian system to persist because he wants to see whether or not Israel has a mind to serve him. Because we living in a day and time, brothers and sisters, where you could do whatever the hell you wanted. You could do all the evil you want to. It ain't nobody that'll stop you, of course, except the Lord. And so all of this Babylonian system, make no mistake, this is one big test for Israel. God don't care nothing about the nations. He got stuff the way it is for Israel. I want to see what's in their mind. And on top of that, I make things hard in this Babylonian system because the pleasure side of the Babylonian system is very sinful. But the other side of this Babylonian system is very hard on Israel. Okay, and that's why the system is so harsh on Israel, because he's trying to humble Israel. I want it to be so hard for you in this system that you ain't got no choice but to look to me. Okay, that's why he has things the way he does. Verse 3. It says, "And he humbled thee," so the Lord humbled you, "and suffered thee to what? Hunger, and fed thee with what? Manna, which thou knewest not, neither did thy fathers know." And even when that manna came down, when that manna, Christ came down, our fathers still didn't know what it was. Okay, but let's keep reading. "That he might make thee know that man doeth not live by bread only, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of the Lord doeth man live." Because if it wasn't for the words of the Lord, that manna would have never came down. They would have never had anything to sustain them. Okay. But that right there, that has to do with Christ. But I'm not going to get into that, brothers and sisters. We're going to keep reading verse 4. "Thy raiment wax not old upon thee." So think about it. They've been in the wilderness all this time. And what? "Thy raiment wax not old upon me," which is impossible. That's how you know that was a miracle. That's how you know the Lord was preserving them, because after a certain amount of time, raiment gets feeble, and then raiment begins to unravel itself. Okay, because you know the stitching of the clothes and everything is tight when you first make it, but after a period of time, it starts to get looser, and then it starts to unravel itself. But it said that their raiment didn't wax old. "Neither did thy foot swell these 40 years. Because think about all that walking they did. You know, your feet swell up. And I had that happen before. You know, you at the park, you just walking and walking and walking and walking and walking. And in my case, running. Because, you know, I like to run and stuff. And after a while, your feet kind of swell up a little bit. It say there's the knee swell. It says, "Thou shalt also consider in thine heart, in your mind, that as a man chasteneth his son, so the Lord thy God chasteneth thee. So listen, Israel, when you rebel against the Lord, hey, he coming for you. When you do that which is not right in the sight of the Lord, he coming for you. Oh man, but the nations, man, they get to do this and do that. Listen, the nations are not children of God. You are. And when you act up and you don't do what's right, the Lord coming for you. He got that rod for you. Verse 6 says, therefore thou shalt keep the commandments of the Lord thy God, to walk in his ways and to what? Fear him. And again, that's a big issue with Israel in 2024. They do not fear him. That's why they're doing all this evil, because they don't believe that God will raise up an enemy to them. They don't believe that he will punish them. And see, when it talks about fear here, guys, it's not talking about reverence. No, this fear here is you need to tremble when you hear my name. Tremble just thinking about me. Thinking about what I can do to you physically. You need to fear me. I can make your life a living hell. That's what we're dealing with right here with this word fear. Verse 7. For the Lord thy God bringeth thee in a good land. Who doing it? The Lord, not Moses, not Joshua, none of them. The Lord bringeth thee in a good land. A land of brooks of water, of fountains and depths that spring out of valleys and hills. A land of wheat and barley and vines and figs and pomegranates. A land of oil, olive, and honey, a land wherein thou shalt eat bread without what? Scarceness. Thou shalt not lack anything in it. But look at our people today, impoverished. They lack everything. It says a land whose stones are what? Iron. And out of whose hills thou mayest dig brass. So, man, we had a very good land, brothers. We had a wealthy land. Produced much, had a lot of minerals in it, which is worth a lot. Man, we had it good. We don't realize how good we actually had it. 10. When thou hast eaten and art full, okay, because the Lord say, trust me, you're going to be prosperous and you're going to be blessed. That's what he mean by that. When thou hast eaten and art full, then thou shalt bless the Lord thy God for the land which he have given thee, okay. That's what you're supposed to do. Show gratitude. Be thankful for the abundance of all things that the Lord has given you. But what? Israel didn't do that. What did they do? Verse 11. Beware that thou forget not the Lord thy God. And that's what Israel did. They forgot. Now they're saying they don't need God. I don't need God. I got this money. I got this house, man. I got me a good job, a good little position. So now God got to split your head open, see, because you forgot. And it says, beware that thou forget not the Lord thy God. And how you going to forget him though? In not keeping his commandments and his judgments and his statutes, which I command thee this day. So look at all of this warning that Moses is giving Israel. He's warning them. And the reason why he's warning them so much, because the Lord knew that one day we was going to pick this book up. And he needed us to know that everything that I am doing to you is righteous. It's just. We can never open this book and say God didn't warn us. You know, he just let us get in the land and we act crazy. And then all of a sudden we just got booted out. He warning you way ahead of time. Even when we got in the land, he warned us, hey, make sure y'all doing what's right. It says, verse 12, lest when thou hast eaten and art full, which we're doing today, and hast built goodly houses. Look at these Israelites today. 2-story houses, 3-story houses, living good. Living lives that our ancestors never would have thought possible. Okay? And dwell therein, and when thy herds and thy flocks multiply, and thy silver and thy gold is multiplied, and all that thou hast is what? Multiply. Then thine heart be lifted up. Now you become prideful. And in that pride, you think it's you doing everything. And so you like, oh, forget God, because it's me, I'm doing it. He says, your heart be lifted up, and thou forget the Lord thy God, which brought thee forth out of the land of Egypt, from the house of bondage. He talking about slavery. Who led thee through that great and terrible wilderness, wherein were fiery serpents, and scorpions, and drought, and there was no water. So don't forget now, when they was in that wilderness the whole time, the Lord telling you what was in there. Fiery serpents, scorpions. So you mean to tell me all of a sudden when they were just in the wilderness, that stuff disappeared? No, they were still in the wilderness, but the Lord made sure they didn't come Israel's way because he was protecting them. And guess what? Them fiery serpents and scorpions today, that's these nations we among. And so if you doing thus saith the Lord, he going to keep these nations away from you. He going to keep them from killing you and harming you. Because remember, we're in the wilderness now. Okay, but you don't do what he say. He going to send one of these crooked heathens on you and they going to deal with you. Them scorpions going to bite your behind. Okay, until you look to God. He says it was drought, there was no water, who brought thee forth water out of the flint of the rock of flint. Verse 16. And so no matter how bad the economy get, I don't care if this world fall to shit. None of that matters. If you serving the Lord, he's going to take care of you. He is going to preserve you. So the Lord didn't give us a spirit of fear, brothers and sisters. We don't have to walk around scared at all of this news that we're hearing. Oh, you heard about this disaster? Oh, man, the economy, they said this is what's going on. I know one thing. I may not, because I don't even know the full scope of everything that's truly going on out here, because I know the news isn't really saying, they're not really telling it like it is. They're not really saying what's really going on. But it's one thing I do know, is that if I serve the Lord, he gonna take care of me. So I don't have a reason to fear these things that's coming upon the nations and coming upon this earth. All right. Verse 16. Who fed thee in the wilderness with what manna, which thy fathers knew not, that he might humble thee, and that he might prove thee to do good to thee at thy latter end. Because don't be crazy. When you serve the Lord, you're going to go through many afflictions, many trials, brothers and sisters, and it's going to hurt like hell. It don't feel good to be in what I call a God trial. Because you got trials, little life stuff, but then you got God trials. Stuff that make your toes curl. Stuff that have you up at night crying. Stuff that have you losing your mind when you alone. I call them God trials. When the affliction, the heat is on you. And you know it's of the Lord, but you know it's something you got to just get through when you get through it. See, those are God trials. When you can't do nothing but call on God. It's either God save me or I'm dead. That's a God trial. And why does he suffer that upon you? So he could what? Do thee good at thy latter end, because he's going to bless you at the end of that. The Lord brings these things upon us so that way we can grow. Your character can't ever grow. You can't grow spiritually, emotionally. You can't grow in these areas unless you go through a God trial. You can practice, you can do combat practice all you want, but your combat skills are never really truly improved until you're in the war, till you're in the heat of the battle. Only then can you truly improve. All right. Verse 17. And thou say in thine heart, my power and my might. So you done ate bread to the full, you prospering, and your heart get lifted up. 17, and you say in your heart, my power and the might of mine hand have gotten me this wealth. And that's what these Israelites today think. Because they sitting in their little 2-story houses, or if they got a 1-story house, the damn house huge. 3 cars, living good, living better than these heathens in their own land. And instead of giving God the glory and thanking him for the abundance of things he's given them, they do what? What they say? My heart and my mind and the might of mine hand have got me this wealth. And see, he said, you say it in your heart. This ain't something Israel expressed openly. He's saying this is what's in their mind. And how do I know this in their mind? Because they no longer acknowledge me. They no longer want to listen to me. They want to do their own thing. And it's because verse 17, that's what's in their mind. But thou shalt remember the Lord thy God, for it is what he, never forget that, for it is he that giveth thee power to get wealth, that he may establish his covenant, which he sware unto thy fathers, as it is this day. 19. And it shall be, if thou do at all forget the Lord thy God, and walk after other gods, and serve them. And these other gods, he ain't just talking about little statues. He even mean human beings. You walk after other gods and serve them and worship them. This is what Moses said on behalf of God. I testify against you this day that ye shall surely perish. And have we perished, brothers and sisters? Yes. As the nations which the Lord destroyeth before your face, to these Canaanites, so shall ye perish. Why? Because the Lord is just mean? No, because ye would not be obedient unto the voice of the Lord your God. And why won't you be obedient to the voice of the Lord your God? Because you have other gods. So you're not listening to the God, the living God. You're listening to other gods. And that's why you're not hearkening unto his voice. And look at us, brothers and sisters. We destroyed. We have perished. We are wasting away. The Lord called these lands that we're in, he calls them our graves. Why? Because we're perishing and have perished over here. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and go through verse 9, chapter 9. Deuteronomy chapter 9 and verse 1. Let me get some water. And it says, Hear, O Israel, thou art to pass over Jordan this day, to go in to possess nations greater and mightier than thyself. And the reason why that is said, because the Lord wants Israel to know, I'm giving you the victory, because you ain't got the power to do nothing. I'm giving you this victory. Cities great and fenced up to heaven, a people great and tall, the children of the Anakims, whom thou knowest, a land full of Shaquille O'Neals, and of whom thou hast heard say, who can stand before the children of Anak, a land full of Shaquille O'Neals. Understand therefore this day that the Lord thy God is he which goeth over before thee as a consuming fire. He shall destroy them, and he shall bring them down before thy face. And that's why I don't fear none of my enemies. So shalt thou drive them out and destroy them quickly, as the Lord thy God hath said unto thee. And remember, when you're obedient to the Lord and you got enemies that rise up against you, the Lord said they're going to go out one way and flee 7 ways. But if you don't obey the Lord, you're going to go flee in 1 way and you're going to flee 7 ways. That's why these Israelites in these lands, they can't stand before their enemies because God is against them. And so they always end up fleeing, running away from the enemy because the Lord ain't with them. Verse 4. Speak not thou in thine heart after that the Lord thy God hath cast them out from before thee, saying, look like the sun going down a little bit. Let me turn this light on. All right. There we go. It's a little bit better. Camera was looking a little dark. Okay. So it says, speak not in thine heart after that the Lord have cast them out from before thee, saying, for my righteousness the Lord have brought me into possess this land. But for the wickedness of these nations, the Lord do drive them out from before thee. So he say, hey, don't get this thing twisted at all, Israel. I'm not bringing you in this land because you righteous. You already proved in the wilderness that you was evil as hell. No, I'm driving these nations out and putting you in there because these Canaanites and across me for the last time, and I'm sick of them. And so I'm using you as the invading nation to drive them out. And what happened to us, brothers and sisters, when we was doing evil in our land, the Lord brought an invading nation in and drove us out. So it was just as the Lord said a few chapters back. You don't do what I say, what I'm doing to these Canaanites, I'm going to do it to you. Verse 5. Not for thy righteousness or for thy uprightness of thine heart doest thou go to possess their land. So the Lord doubling down. But for the wickedness of these nations, the Lord thy God doeth drive them out from before thee, and that he may perform the word which the Lord sware unto thy fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Understand, therefore, that the Lord thy God giveth thee not this good land to possess it for thy righteousness. He said, for thou art a stiff-necked people. You are a stubborn people. Refuse to change. Refuse to obey me. Stiff-necked. And that's these Israelites, man. They refuse to budge. And remember, the Lord said stiff-neckedness or stubbornness is as the sin of witchcraft. And we know that was punishable by death. Verse 7. Remember and forget not how thou provokest the Lord thy God to wrath in the wilderness. So he letting them know why it's not for righteousness. He said, because remember, you provoked the Lord to wrath in the wilderness. He said, it says, from the day that thou didst depart out of the land of Egypt until you came unto this place, ye have been rebellious against the Lord. And I will say, even until this day, from the time we left Egypt to 2024, we have been rebellious against the Lord. All of these centuries and 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 centuries since we left Egypt, we have been rebellious against the Lord down to 2024. Ain't a time frame that went by where Israel was just doing good. And I'm talking about for centuries on end. Very 40-year stint we do good, and then after that we get our head busted because we go back to doing evil. Most of our existence as the children, as the nation of Israel, has all been evil. And it's the truth. 8. Also, in Horeb, you provoked the Lord to wrath, so that the Lord was angry with you to have destroyed you. And he means as a nation. He's going to completely get rid of Israel. 9. When I was going up into the mount to receive the tables of stone, even the tables of the covenant which the Lord made with you. Then I abode in the mount 40 days and 40 nights. I neither did eat bread nor drink water. And he didn't need to, because he was in the presence of the Lord. 10. And the Lord delivered unto me 2 tables of stone, written with the finger of God. And on them was written according to all the words which the Lord spake with you in the mount out of the midst of the fire in the day of the assembly. And it came to pass at the end of the 40 days and 40 nights that the Lord gave me the 2 tables of stone, even the tables of the covenant. Because remember, the children of Israel at that time, before Moses even was up in the mount, they signed the verbal contract with the Lord. Okay, so they signed the contract. And so now the Lord was putting it in writing with these stones. But what happened? 12. And the Lord said unto me, Arise, get thee down quickly from hence. For thy people, he didn't say my people, he said thy people, which thou hast brought forth out of Egypt, have corrupted themselves. They are quickly turned aside out of the way. Only 40 days elapsed, and they turned aside, which I commanded them. They have made them a molten image. So they had just signed the contract with God, and they have already broken it. 40 days, that's all it took for Israel to break their contract with God. They was already serving an idol God. So that covenant was broken. 13. Furthermore, the Lord spake unto me, saying, I have seen this people, meaning I observed this people for a long time. And behold, it is a stiff-necked people. They are stubborn. They refuse to change and do that which is righteous in the eyes of the Lord. He said, let me alone, that I may destroy them and blot out their name from under heaven. And I will make of thee, to my Moses, a nation mightier and greater than they, almost insinuating that this new nation that would have came out of Israel, that would have came out of Moses, they would have actually been obedient and did what the Lord said. But Moses interceded for Israel. So the Lord was going to totally annihilate the nation of Israel except for Moses. Because remember, all the Lord needed was one Israelite to be alive. That's scary, man. Verse 15. So I turned and came down from the mount, and the mount burned with fire, and the 2 tables of the covenant were in my 2 hands. And I looked, and behold, ye had sinned against your God, and had made you a molten calf. Ye had turned aside quickly out of the way which the Lord had commanded you, meaning they broke the covenant quickly. And I took the 2 tables and cast them out of my 2 hands and break them before your eyes. And it's funny that he did that, because they literally broke the covenant. They had voided their end of the contract when they made that golden calf. 18. And I fell down before the Lord as at the first 40 days and 40 nights. I did neither eat bread nor drink water, because of all your sins which you have sinned, and doing wickedly in the sight of the Lord, to provoke him to anger. And to provoke is to give rise to. For I was afraid of the anger and hot displeasure, wherewith the Lord was wroth against you to destroy you, because he was finna do it. But the Lord hearkened unto me at that time also. And the Lord was very angry with Aaron, because remember, Aaron had made that golden calf for them. He said, Aaron, you made the children of Israel to sin a great sin, implying that Aaron should have stood up to them. Even if you wanted to put me to death, I'm not making no golden calf. So the Lord was very angry with Aaron to have destroyed him. And I prayed for Aaron also at that time. So now we're getting to, because we didn't really see whether or not the Lord was mad at Aaron at that time. We didn't see to what extent, but we see now that the Lord was going to kill Aaron. But Moses prayed for him, and so the Lord passed over him. Verse 21. And I took your sin, the calf which ye had made, and burned it with fire, and stamped it, and ground it very small, even until it was as small as dust, and cast the dust thereof into the brook that descended out of the mount, and at Taberah, and at Massa, and at Kibratahava, you provoke the Lord to wrath. So Moses is bringing up all of these instances of their rebellion against the Lord to let them know he ain't bringing you in this land of Canaan because you're righteous. Likewise, when the Lord sent you from Kadesh Barnea, saying, go up, possess the land which I have given you, then you rebelled against the commandment of the Lord your God, and you believed him not, nor hearkened unto his voice. Ye have been rebellious against the Lord from the day that I knew you. So Moses is like, even the day that I knew you. And when did Moses know Israel? From the day that he was in the house of Pharaoh. He knew Israel, and he knew that this was a stubborn and a rebellious people. He even knew then. That's why he didn't want to lead them, brothers and sisters, because Moses knew what type of people he was dealing with. These darkies are evil, and it's just the truth. 25. Thus I fell down before the Lord 40 days and 40 nights, as I fell down at the first, because the Lord had said he would destroy you. And meanwhile, Israel hate Moses. I can't stand Moses. He think he this and he think he that. And meanwhile, the Lord up here, Moses up here interceding with you. Just like with Christ, he the one interceding for us on our behalf for the Father. And we hate Christ. And he the one interceding so that way the Father don't have to kill you. But you hate Christ though. 26 says, I prayed therefore unto the Lord and said, O Lord God, destroy not thy people in thine inheritance, which thou hast redeemed through thy greatness, which thou hast brought forth out of Egypt with a mighty hand. Remember thy servants Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Look not unto the stubbornness of this people, nor to the wickedness, nor to their sin. Meanwhile, Israel talking about how righteous they are. But meanwhile, Moses like they stubborn, wicked, and sinful. 28. Lest the land whence thou broughtest us out say, because the Lord was not able to bring them into the land which he promised them, and because he hated them, he hath brought them out to slay them in the wilderness. Yet they are thy people and thine inheritance, which thou hast brought us out by thy mighty power and by thy stretched out arm. So thank goodness Moses interceded for us at that time, boy, because I'm telling you, man, the Lord was heated. He was upset. So let's see if I want to read chapter 10. Let's see. Oh, I better end it there, brothers and sisters. We'll pick up in the next chapter. So I hope you guys got some understanding, and I will see you in the next lesson. Shalom.